Tahun 2014 merupakan tahun penting bagi sistem perpolitikan Indonesia. Dipastikan sistem politik yang terjadi akan mempengaruhi sektor lainnya di negeri ini termasuk ekonomi. Lalu bagaimana tren kepercayaan publik baik untuk sektor bisnis maupun ke pemerintah di tahun politik ini? Pemerintahan seperti apa yang diinginkan oleh investor? Bersama kami di studio telah hadir CEO Edelman Indonesia, Stephen Locke. How are you, Stephen?
Good evening. Very well, thank you.
Welcome, Stephen.
Yeah, overall, Indonesia experienced one of the highest increase in the trust index. Why is that?
It's very interesting. We had some really interesting results for Indonesia this year. Indonesians have the highest trust in business around the world. So Indonesia's businessmen and women have done a fantastic job in terms of getting their message across to Indonesians. It was interesting also that trust in government rose in Indonesia this year by a significant amount.
Can you elaborate more about that?
We were very surprised to see the 6% rise in trust in government in Indonesia. It fell over the last 3 years. What we think is that in the last few months we have seen organizations like the KPK successfully hold power to account. We've also seen at the municipal level, not just here in Jakarta, but also in places like Surabaya and Bandung, a new kind of generation of municipal leadership. So our assessment is that trust in the idea of government and transparency of government and looking forward to the next government, trust has risen.
We highlight some numbers here. It is said that trust in government increased by 6%, as you said. It seems hard to believe with many corruption cases happening last year. How do you say that this data can represent the people of Indonesia?
Well, we survey 1,200 people in Indonesia out of 33,000 people that we survey every year. Our assessment of the results is the very success of the KPK. The fact that the media can write about it, the KPK can arrest ministers, and people do get convicted. That gives people faith in the system. So from a low base, and it was a low base, we've seen an improvement in trust in government because people have seen the checks and balances of the KPK work.
So the 6% is KPK?
That would be our guess, yes.
Yeah, but it was lower than last year, right? Last year, the increase is 7%.
Last year, trust in government fell.
Yes.
And trust in NGOs this year rose very strongly. And actually, when we look at the results overall, we're seeing that Indonesians want a partnership between business, who they trust to get things done, government, and NGOs as part of civil society. So they want a triangulation of these bodies to work together for the next phase of Indonesia's development and change.
So you say that 6% was KPK until tonight.
KPK and a new generation of leadership.
But, new generation. You mean not only the government, like the president and the cabinet?
Yes, because we talk about government being a kind of general concept, the idea of government. We later in the survey asked about your trust in leaders of government. Now there we get a different result. And globally, trust in government leaders is very bad. Globally, it's about 15%.
So it's a trend, actually.
Yes, it's a global trend. Whether you're in the United States or in Germany or in Indonesia, globally, trust in government is about 15%, to tell the truth in difficult situations and to make ethical and moral decisions. And it's about the same number here. What's interesting is that for Indonesians, when you ask them those same questions about trusting business leaders, you get between 2 and 2.5 times more levels of trust. So to tell the truth in difficult circumstances, you get 2.5 times more trust in business leaders than government leaders. So what that tells us is that in the next government, they want the leaders of that government to behave more like businessmen. And we know that because we asked them, what do you want government to do?
Are you referring to Jokowi or to someone?
It can be whoever you want it to be. I'm not going to tell you who to elect, but what I can tell you is the single most important thing that Indonesians surveyed wanted was to build infrastructure. 45% of Indonesians surveyed, and this was way higher than the global average, which was about 20%. 45% said they want Indonesia's next government to build infrastructure. There's a very clear message about what they want, and also, interestingly, what they don't want.
So no more leadership, the government-style leadership?
It does suggest they want government to behave more like businessmen.
Okay.
So
Very strong steer.
we're going to the business then. Trust in business increased by 8%, you said, and business consistently trusted more than government since 2003.
Yeah, and it's the highest level of trust in business in the world.
Yeah, even wider in 2014,
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think it's because people see business going forward, they see business modernizing, and they see business getting stuff done. I think that is very important, not just talking about it, but getting stuff done. Because when we were asking the survey audience, what do you want? They focused on very, very practical things. So in a sense, if I took out anything from this to advise Mr. Bakri or Jokowi or whoever the candidates might be, it would be focus on getting things done, focus on infrastructure. There was one very interesting and slightly concerning result. Worldwide, about 20% of people said governments should work for freer markets, more open markets. Here in Indonesia, only 5% of people thought that was important. And I personally think that's very interesting because we are 18 months away from the launch of the ASEAN Economic Community. And what our research is saying is that 95% of Indonesians surveyed did not put that as a priority.
There are trust gap in global result for 14 points, but in Indonesia there are 29 point trust gap. What does the figure say?
So what this is telling me is that government, in the broadest sense of the word, has not convinced Indonesians that they are operating for the best interests of delivering change and progress for Indonesians. What they think they are doing is a different issue, but what it tells me is people have faith in the power of business to make positive change. And if I see those results, together with the huge rise in the trust in NGOs and civil society, what I take from that is that in the next government, in the next 5 years, people want a sort of triangulation between business, government and NGOs to work together on a shared agenda, but to get very practical things done. The results were very clear. People wanted practical things to be done.
So that is the highlight, yeah. So what do these figures in the trust index mean for the investment in Indonesia? Both foreign and local, of course. I mean.
Very high scores for transparency. So businesses that are transparent score highest. So we asked people, what sort of business do you trust most of all? And we asked them about family-owned businesses, state-owned enterprises, big companies, small companies, and we got very clear results. Indonesians have highest levels of trust in big, publicly traded companies. They have lowest levels of trust in state-owned industries. Now, that's interesting on the infrastructure issue because it's telling us the best way of building infrastructures is public-private partnership, not just the state. That's what people want. They want partnership, business and government. The other thing that was very, very interesting, I thought, is that trust in family-owned businesses in Indonesia was much lower than we see in Western Europe and North America. That was a really interesting finding.
All right. All right, how to build the trust? Can you give us some tips for that?
Yes, we asked people 16 different ways of building trust. Everything from the financial results you have, to how you treat your employees, to environmental issues, and very clear things came out. Globally, how you communicate with customers is the most important thing for building trust. Indonesia is very different. How you treat employees is still top 3, but the most important things are ethics, and also your impact on community. Things like good purpose and community, they score way higher in Indonesia than the global average. And it, I think, reflects what we all know to be true about Indonesia, which is it's a community-based country. So businesses here have to be deeply involved in their corporate social responsibility program in the country in which they operate. In the West, you could say a CSR program is a nice to have. In Indonesia, it's critical because the way in which you treat the local community, the way in which you impact on the environment, these are really driving people's opinions about your business.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing to us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.